Infinite Masters, welcome to the Infinite Mastery Podcast, where every single week we bring you a high-performing, world-class leader or expert to help you master your self-esteem and master your life. My name is Richard Quo, and I'll be your host for today's episode. Today we got Cam Adair, who is the founder of Game Quitters, which is the largest online community for video game addiction. He's also a TEDx speaker who has over 400,000 views on his TEDx videos. And besides that, I'm very, very grateful and blessed to have Cam as a personal friend of mine. Cam, thank you so much for being on. And please tell us one or two more interesting things about yourself that I did not say already.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Interesting things about me. I love to travel. And so I've traveled to like 25 countries around the world. For 3 years, I was a full nomad. So I didn't have an apartment and I just traveled full time. And I also love to DJ. And today I'm releasing my new DJ mix when we're recording this. So you can check that out on Mixcloud DJ, or I guess it's Modus. We Are Modus.
How do you spell that?
We Are Modus. So we are, and then MOTUS. And I love house music. I view myself as an ambassador of good music because life is too short to listen to shitty music. So you can check out Modus.
That's amazing. All right, so just to give a little recap of what's going on in this interview, even though we haven't started talking already, I have a feeling that we're going to stick on topic and also go off topic a little bit. So just a little heads up for whoever's watching. I'm just predicting the future. I'm really, really happy about this interview, even though it hasn't even been complete yet. Just because I know the guy Cam is, and I know he's willing to kind of go anywhere. So stay tuned, and we are going to just dive into not only how do we build our self-esteem, we're going to talk about video game addiction, but we're also going to dive into wherever this conversation goes. So let's get going. I'm going to start off with the basics. Cam, can you tell us a little bit more about your life growing up? Where did you grow up? What was your family like? What was your environment like?
So I grew up in Calgary, Canada. I'm Canadian. And like most Canadian kids, I played hockey. I played hockey for like 15 years. It was awesome. I miss hockey a lot. Hockey was like one of the greatest times of my life. And just for anyone watching, if you're like in high school or you're say under 18, those sports that you play or anything that you do, like enjoy that so much more than you are right now, because I don't think I gave enough credit to the fact that I would actually grow up and not be able to play hockey for the rest of my life. And those times where I was able to play hockey, like every day after school and play in tournaments and travel and all of it, was like such a special time in my life. And I just wish that in the moment I would have kind of appreciated it just a little bit more. So I wanted to give that out. But yeah, I grew up in Calgary, had like an amazing family. I have world-class parents. So my parents have been married for like 30 years, and they made it their own personal mission to give us everything. So, every opportunity to succeed was kind of there for us. And they always kind of spoke a lot about like, go for your dreams, do anything, you're capable of anything, work really hard, be a good person, but like, don't let anything hold you back. Like you can do it. I have an older sister, 2 years older. So I'm 28, so she's 30, and a younger brother, 2 years younger. And they're back in Calgary. Everyone's back in Calgary, but I live in California now. Right
on. So I know a lot of people watching this probably already know your story. What I want to do is for people who don't know about you, to share a little bit about your story, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper, and hopefully we'll hit some points that have never been covered on other interviews and things like that. So yeah. Walk us through your most challenging moment of your childhood. What did that look like in that moment?
Yeah, so for people who don't know, a big part of my story is that I was bullied growing up a lot. And so in the 8th grade, that's when I really started. And every single day at lunch hour, kids would chase me around trying to put me in a garbage can. And I would like kick and scream and squirm and do everything I could to ensure that never happened, because obviously I would be humiliated. And then on my hockey teams, it wasn't really much better. And for actually an hour at one point in my life, I sat in fetal position on a bus being spit on. And so these experiences really caused me to not really enjoy going to school or playing hockey very much. At school, it was like, do I really want to go and experience this every day? And on hockey, I was like, I'm not accepted, right? And so those experiences caused me to just want to escape. And so I actually ended up dropping out of high school, not once, but twice, never graduated, never went to college. And for many years struggled with depression, just playing video games, like up to 16 hours a day in my parents' basement, pretending to have jobs and all of this stuff. Now, the most challenging times of my life, I think, were during those periods of depression, because as much as, say, video games allowed me to escape from dealing with depression, it didn't actually fix it. And so I came to multiple different times in my life where I actually wrote a suicide note and was seriously contemplating suicide. One particular time I had actually written a note, addressed to all my friends and family, last messages I wanted to share, and planned it and had everything planned. And then the story goes that I ended up going to see the movie Superbad. For people who haven't seen that movie, love it. I went to go see the movie Superbad. I got really fucking high that night and realized, like, from laughing at the movie and having a good time that, okay, maybe like this isn't such a good idea and I need to actually get some professional support.
Some Superbad saved your life.
I have a blog post called how Superbad saved my life.
Nice.
And like, I'm fucking serious about that. Like, getting high and going to that movie and laughing my ass off, I have no doubt saved my life because it shifted my state. Right. And so that's something valuable we can just share with everyone watching is, no matter what you're feeling right now or what difficult times you're going through, that's like a state, and finding a way to shift that state will help you feel differently. So when I was super depressed, writing a suicide note, planning to kill myself, laughing and shifting my state caused me to think differently. And that thought was, holy shit, I no longer feel safe with myself. I no longer believe that I have my own personal health and well-being in mind. And I need to go and get some support. So I asked my father to help me find a counselor, and he did. And that was a turning point in my life.
Wow. So would you say, just to be clear, was that moment the turning point for you?
Oh, that moment was one of, like, there have been, like, that's one of them. There's another one a couple years later where I was, again, seriously contemplating suicide. There's been a number of them. And I think that's an important point, is that there's going to be multiple turning points. Yeah. And there's always one where it's like, that was maybe the initial catalyst. And that one for me was because that's the moment where I realized I actually wanted to live. And if I wasn't going to commit suicide, then I should start to pursue every dream and goal and like everything I want in my life. Yeah. Because what else am I going to do? Like, if I'm going to be here and not just kill myself, then I should do the complete opposite and go for my life fully, 100%. So that was a catalyst, but it's hard for me to say that it was the turning point because there's been others after it, and there were probably others before it, in just different ways. That's just the one that we like to think about.
You say we.
Yeah, as humans, I think we're designed as humans to focus on those single moments, right? Yeah. And the truth is that, like, even if there was a moment where you look at that moment where that's where it shifted, there were 1,000 moments before it or 1,000 decisions before it that led up to that moment even being a possibility.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I think we're so often even, think about politics. What's the one solution? What's the one thing we need to focus? And it's like, there are like 15,000 different things we need to do. Yeah. And there's 15,000 different turning points. So it's not just one. One is just the one that we like to think about.
What are some other turning points of your life besides watching Superbad and getting high?
Yeah, so
here's some other ones. How old were you too when these happened?
Yeah, so I'll share one that I haven't really talked a lot about. I'll tell everyone, I blew up Richard's interview right before we got on the call because I was like, he's like, it must be like, how much do you enjoy sharing your story all the time? And I was like, actually, I'm tired of it. Like, let's talk about other stuff. So I'm challenging myself to show up for Richard in the way of like sharing things I haven't really shared before. So there's a story for me where I had just moved to Boulder, Colorado. And so there was a moment in my life where I was, it was minus 22 Celsius in my hometown in Calgary. It was freezing cold in winter. And I walked from my house to my car, and I was sitting in my car, like waiting for it to warm up. And I was like, I fucking hate this. Why do I do this? And then what I describe as the next thought, which is I should move. Right. And so I was like, fuck, I should move. And so I did. So I did move, and I moved to Boulder, Colorado. Now, when I moved to Boulder, I moved in with a friend. His name is Phil Drolet, awesome guy. New Kings is his new project, so check that out. Phil Drolet, amazing guy. And Phil was the only person I knew in this city, in Boulder, Colorado. And the first night, we were kind of like talking in the kitchen and just hanging out, and I was trying to connect with him. I was feeling very vulnerable. I just moved to a new country, new city. I didn't really know anyone. And we were talking, and at the end of the night, I said something to Phil that I used to say to everyone, which was, hey, Richard, we live to fight another day. It was this like weird, like quirky thing I used to say like before bed, like we live to fight another day. And so I said this, I said, yo, Phil, like, you know, we live to fight another day. And he looked at me and he was like, dude, that's a mindset I'm trying to move away from. Life is not a fight. Life is a flow. If you think it's a fight, it'll be a fight. If you think it'll be a flow, it'll be a flow. And I remember being like, got it. And I walked my ass up these stairs into my buddy's room. I was staying in his room. And I sat on the bed, like looking up at the roof. I remember just feeling like a fucking truck had just hit me in the face. I had just moved to this new country, new city. I had one friend, and he just called me out like on like the second day about some stupid shit I was saying that was influencing my life in a certain way. And I remember sitting there, and the moment for me, you know, to answer your question, was that I realized that what I had done was a significant thing to move to a new city. And it was going to be really good, but it was going to be hard. And I had to take it seriously. And my life wasn't just going to change because I got in my car and drove to a new country. Right. It changed because I was there to actually do the work. Right. And that's the difference, is like in that moment, I wasn't just intellectually trying to understand this stuff. I was actually trying to embody it. Yeah. Phil's challenge of, is life a fight or is it a flow? Was a challenge for me to actually live my life from a place of that decision. Right. And that moment changed my life. But that was one of the moments where I was like, oh shit, like what have I got myself into here? Right.
Right on. What was your mindset like, what was your personal development mindset like around that time you moved from Calgary to Boulder?
Yeah, great question. The mindset shift I was in at that time was that for so long, I had intellectually understood everything. So we all know that guy who you could go to and yo, Richard, like, how should I get a girlfriend? Yo, Richard, what should I do with my money? How do I save money? How do I make more money? How do I build a business? Like, go down the list. If you asked me any of those questions, like, no problem. I got the answer. Right? Now, was my life a reflection of that? No. Right? Of course not. And we all know that person, and we are that person. Right?
Sounds like me.
Right.
Sounds like my YouTube channel.
Right. Exactly. Now, there's a difference between, like, this is where it gets a bit tricky, because fake it till you make it on some level is about acting as if. Right? And so you have to actually try to embody what it is that you're trying to learn. But that's different than posing. Right? It's not saying, yo, I am this. Yeah. It's trying to embody how you would be if you were. Right? Yeah. Anyway, so I was that person, and the realization I had was that for 4 or 5 years I had been studying personal development intensively. And then my life completely blew up. I moved out of my place that was dope. I went to move to Boulder and I got scared and decided not to. My girlfriend broke up with me. I flew to Costa Rica and was supposed to be there for 40 days. I only lasted 10 because I was so stressed and like anxious and worried. I was broke. My business had just failed. You know, like those are like 6 or 7 major things that all happened within the span of like 2 weeks. And I was like, how has this happened? Like, I've been studying this stuff so much, but yet like my life isn't a reflection of it. And that's when I realized that I understood everything intellectually, but I couldn't actually put it into practice. I knew it, but I couldn't apply it. So when I moved to Boulder, the mindset shift I was making was, one, living my life from a place of love and possibility and not fear. So much of my life I've been living from a place of fear. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? Instead of, wait, what do I truly desire? What do I actually want in my life? And whether something works out or not, I will be okay. Instead of, if I end up dating this girl and then we break up, my life is fucking over.
Yeah.
Right? Which is where I live my life by a lot. And then the other one was actually embodying what it was that I was studying, embodying the different concepts I believed in and knew to be true. Right?
What did it take from you to embody what you learned? Because I think that's a very challenging thing that a lot of us face. Yeah.
So the two kind of things that come up for me, I've been thinking a lot about this morning, is intense intention, almost like an obsessed level of focus on the intention that you set, and choice, right? So Viktor Frankl talks about how, you know, between something happening and what you do, there is a space, and that space is called choice, right? And so the story is, if you guys can see it, probably not with this light, I have a scar here. You can kind of see it.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect example for me. I was surfing, and I got thrown off my board, and I hit my face on my surfboard. As soon as I hit my face, just based on the feeling, like the thump, I was like, this is probably not good. So I like come up, like I stand up and I go like this, and I look, and blood is pouring down my face. And I'm like, okay, I need to get out of the water. Get out of the water. Now I'm like a 10-minute hike from my car, and my face is bleeding badly. Like, this was 9 stitches. So, you know, decent cut. Now, in that moment, I had a choice of how I was going to show up in that moment. Was I going to freak out and panic and just cause chaos around me? Or was I going to remain calm, stoic, and take the next action I need to take in order to get this problem solved? Right? Now, in that moment, it would be so easy and so common for so many people to freak out. Blood's pouring down their face. They're a 10-minute hike from their car. They have no towel. Like this is like, you could say, a dangerous situation. But in that moment, my heartbeat didn't even increase 1 beat. Like, not even 1 beat. I was like so calm. And I was calm because I knew from, again, practicing this like for years and years and years, especially from travel, that like when these situations happen, you just have to deal with it. And so my course of action was, okay, I need to get back to my car. I need to get to the hospital. In between that, I need to figure out how bad this cut is and if I need help even sooner. But before I can do any of that, I just need to start going with plan A and get into my car. So I started walking to my car, and I saw a couple that were like making out on the beach. And so I walked up to them. I was like, hey, excuse me. I realized like blood's pouring down my face, but can you guys tell me how bad it is? Right? Because I couldn't see it. And this dude was like, yeah, it looks pretty bad. Like, can we help? And I was like, yeah. Do you guys have a towel I can have? Right? And they were like, yeah, here, have this one, right? So they give me a towel. And I just look at them and I'm like, thank you so much. And I like walk off, right? With it like holding like this. And then I walked back to my car, right? Once I got to my car, I looked at Google Maps, where's the closest hospital? Went to the hospital, got stitches. It cost me like $2,000, and I moved on with my life.
Yeah.
Right. And like, yeah, okay, I have a scar. Okay, I had stitches. Was it painful? Whatever. Like the money, all this stuff. But like at the end of the day, there were very specific things I need to do. And being worried or being stressed or any of those different emotions was not going to have any positive impact on that situation at all. Just like if you miss your flight, getting all stressed is not going to get you on that next flight sooner. That next flight has a schedule. And it's going to happen whether you're stressed or not, right? And so like, it's just in those moments choosing how you want to show up and doing that over and over and over and over and over and over again for years is ultimately how you come to a moment like I did when I was surfing, where that was just my natural reaction. Right. But it came from like me going to Costa Rica and falling on my face traveling because I was so stressed out, where at one point my car taxi driver fell asleep on the highway and got in a car accident. And I was in the middle of nowhere, Costa Rica, only speaking English. He only speaks Spanish. And I'm like, what the hell do I do? Right. And so I had to wait for another taxi to come, which was like a couple hours sitting on the highway in the middle of nowhere, Costa Rica. Right. But like, it's those moments where like you get to choose how you show up, but it's the practice over so many years and so many different times that ultimately you get to like develop that kind of competency in yourself.
That's a interesting thing to reflect on. And sometimes we're not even aware of our level of competency because things just happen. Like, I don't know if when you had your forehead was all cut open, were you sitting there thinking like, I'm calm. This must have been years of competency in building this up. Or it happens, you're like, oh, I am calm. Let's figure out what I need to do.
Yeah.
I have a relevant question to that. So, first of all, a really quick story. I don't know if you heard about this one, but my car got stolen. And that was one of those moments where I remained very, very calm. Like, I'm like, oh, my car is gone. Like, I got appointment set up today and I can't get there anymore. It's like, well, I can't really do anything about it. My car's gone. So I stayed very calm in that. And I didn't really react to it like I might have in the past. But my question is, even today, there's some moments like that where my car can get stolen and I won't react. But sometimes there's these little moments, these little things that happen. Let's say it is with my dad, who I take care of. And he says something and it ticks me off a little bit. And like, why do you think that is? And can you relate to that, where some moments you can stay completely calm and some moments it just still sets you on fire?
For sure. And that's the natural progression, right? There isn't an end point where nothing no longer bothers you, right? And this is a really interesting idea around the idea of like a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, where a fixed mindset believes that there is an end point where you might grow to a certain point, but then you get to stay there. Whereas a growth mindset means that you're ever expanding, always evolving, always growing. And in order to grow, there's always obstacles and challenges, right? And so I don't believe that there's ever going to come a point where nothing triggers me or nothing frustrates me. Yesterday, I was fucking triggered because I read this article, and again, I'm not throwing shade on nobody, like full respect. But right now, in the work that I do with game quitters, if you need support with a video game addiction or gaming addiction or anything technological like that, the only options you have are basically to pay out of pocket for counseling, which is like $150 plus per session, or to go to like rehab centers. And there's this one rehab center, and I love the people who work at it, and like, thank you. But it costs $25K to go for their summer program.
Wow.
And I'm not even saying that they shouldn't charge that. But what I'm saying is it's fucked up that that's the only solution available for people. Because guess who gets to go to $25K rehab centers?
The people who could afford really nice gaming rigs.
And the people who like, yes, and the people who come from families who are able to like afford that.
Right.
A 15-year-old from India is not going to be able to afford that.
Right.
And I believe, like, yes, there's a market for it, all of it. But the reason I do Game Quitters is because I believe that there needs to be a solution for people that is free, that is available for all, no matter who you are, what your background is, whether you have your support of your parents or not, whether you have like access to resources, like you deserve it for free. And to have that support not be like Bush League support, but like the best support possible, right? So when I read this article, because this rehab center gets featured everywhere, like they're always featured in Washington Post, they're always featured. They're the ones who are always featured. And, you know, again, respect to them. I'm friends with them. I love the work they do. It just pisses me off that like that is the example that we're able to show. It's, if you want to overcome a video game addiction, $25K, right? So right now I'm feeling like I'm pissed, right? But the opportunity for me is to use that as positive fuel to continue making Game Quitters better and better and better and better, and be able to work with them to figure out ways that like we can work together to provide better solutions for everyone. Not from a place of like, I need to be pissed at them. I was literally just on the phone with them right before this, right? But how can we learn from this and improve everything? How can we innovate?
Yeah.
My roommate slams the door when she goes to the washroom, and slamming doors, like for whatever reason, like freaks me out. Like it like triggers me like none other, right? Now, the other day when she did it, like that's an opportunity for me to notice it, like have the awareness, and then be like, okay, cool. Like I'm just gonna sit in this and like feel what I'm feeling in it and choose how I want to respond, which was, I don't need it to cause me to like start punching holes in the wall, right? Like I can be calm, and I can also, you know, invite her, hey, like, do you mind maybe not slamming the door because it freaks me the fuck up, right? Like, but it all begins with that awareness and that knowing that like there's never an end point. You're always going to have more things that trigger you, but those are just like compasses that are pointing you to where your growth opportunity is.
Yeah. That is, that's pretty powerful. Let's see. I am stuck in a moment where I'm enjoying this conversation, and I want to keep it going. I ran out of questions for now, so I'm going to hop on to the next train and talk about what advice would you give to for someone who is struggling with their self-esteem?
That's one thing. Always do work you love. And so I think, you know, I'll talk a bit about self-esteem, but I do think from a meta level, I think self-esteem is, it's really hard to feel good about yourself if you're doing shit that you hate. Right? And so when I go surfing, when I DJ, when I play basketball, when I go to the gym, when I go to yoga, when I hang out with friends that are dope, like these are, when I work on Game Quiz, these are different things that like light me up, right? These are things that leave me feeling inspired. And those positive feelings I'm having, those opportunities for me to like be creative and be resourceful and like use my limbs, like these things, and be able to like actually focus on something and build something that like brings so much inspiration to my life. And as someone who struggled with depression and low self-esteem for a long time, it's so you focused instead of how can you use yourself to create for other, right? So I always say, like, if you want to, like, the best antidote to depression is service to others. It's really hard for me to be depressed when I'm actually focused on trying to help other people.
Yeah.
Right. And it's because depression is very, like, focused on yourself and how bad you feel. Right. So building self-esteem, in my opinion, like I was telling you at the beginning of this call, before we hit record, it's about having a relationship with yourself and developing a better relationship with yourself. And that begins by feeling proud of yourself and creating opportunities for you to feel proud of yourself. Right. So when I spoke at TEDx, not because I cared about TEDx. That was like a very side thing. I spoke at TEDx because it was an opportunity for me to do something that was out of my comfort zone. I had never spoken on stage before. It was in front of 2,300 people in a sold out auditorium. I was like a 25-year-old reporter. But doing it, I knew that at the end, I would be so proud of myself, and I would never be able to take that away from myself. And now when I watch that video, I'm like, what the, holy shit, right? And that happens on small ways too, right? This morning I was walking down the street and I saw some garbage and I picked it up and I put it in the garbage can. I didn't do it just so I could, like, brag about it right now. No one would even know. But I did it because I believe that, like, we live in a culture where it's always someone else's job.
Yeah.
That job is someone else's job to pick up. Like, it's always someone else's job. And I want to live from the place of service, and I want to live from the place of how can I contribute. That doesn't just happen when I make a YouTube video. That doesn't just happen, doing this interview. It happens when I see garbage on the street too. Right? So I picked it up, put it in the garbage, and I took a second to be like, dude, good job. Like, you're living in alignment. And that's a great example of doing it. And so it's building a relationship with yourself, which begins by identifying what kind of relationship you want to have. But then it also happens when you make the choice to live in alignment with that, and most importantly, to recognize yourself for doing it. Because we're always so quick to notice when we fuck up. Richard, you need to buy a new phone. Your car got stolen, right? My phone right now, it is a complete mess. Look at that. Look at that. It's horrible.
That's a nice reflection of your life.
Right? It's horrible right now. But we're so quick to notice when we fuck up or when we fall short. And yet we take virtually no time ever to actually notice when we do well or when we stay in alignment or when we make a good choice. So of fucking course, all of us are running around with no self-esteem because we only ever focus on where we fuck up.
Right.
Right. And so it's taking those moments, and you can turn this into a practice. You can do a gratitude journal where you also just write down a couple things that you're proud of yourself for, right? You can do that sort of stuff. I just try it as much as I can to do it in the moment. And it begins by giving myself permission that I can, right? Hey, dude, good job. Like, you woke up on time for this interview, right? Or like there's 100 different things that I can recognize myself for. But if I don't take the time to do it, then I'm always just going to feel shitty.
Dude, as you're speaking, I literally just came up with 5 extra questions that I all want answered. I don't even know if I'm going to remember them all. I want them all answered, though.
Let's go.
Let's see. I'm just going to go with whatever comes up first. What do you think about that idea of taking care of yourself before you take care of others? How does that play in with serving other people?
You are a person. So serving yourself is incredibly important in all capacities, right? If I didn't have the energy that I have, I wouldn't be able to help other people. So the food that I choose to eat has an impact on how much energy I have, which has an impact on my ability to serve other people, right? And so I think that there's a very clear balance. I fucking hate that word, by the way, sometimes, between like balance is like, don't ever tell me to be balanced. It's about sustainability. But you have to take care of yourself first. And we're all different, so you have to identify what self-care looks like in your life. But if you have a hard time doing that, start to see yourself as a person that you're serving, right? Like me getting enough sleep is crucial. Me eating really, really well is crucial. Me exercising is crucial. And all of those things allow me to show up for this and be able to share with others, right? Or to be as productive as I am to make YouTube videos and do all the stuff that I do, right? And so the truth is, there's a certain percentage of people that like to not focus on themselves and only focus on other people. And my challenge to those people, if anyone's watching, is why is it that you believe that you're not worthy of the same level of service that you give to others? And dive into that and dig into that, because in that, there is a shift that you're able to make that will help you develop a better relationship with yourself and increase your capacity to be able to help other people. I've always known that I will probably make a lot of money in my life. And my motivation for that is not money. I could really give a shit about money, to be honest. But it's because I know that there's a certain opportunity with that money presents to be able to help other people. But that doesn't only start when you have a lot of money. That starts now when I don't have a lot of money, right? Like I'm donating 10% of the revenue we just made from my previous launch of a new program I just did to build clean water wells, and just doing it automatically, right? Because that's like some small capacity I can do right now. And I know you do a lot of that work. And so you have to take care of yourself, because that makes you a stronger person that can increase your capacity to help other people. And if you're avoiding that, I think that's something that you should look into.
This is a little bit more of a selfish question for me, taking care of myself right now. At what point, like, there seems to be a fine balance between taking care of ourselves and serving other people. And I would say I'm one of those people, and I struggle with this still today, where I'm good at serving other people, but not necessarily myself. And I'm trying to figure out, for me personally, how do I serve myself better? You know, and I'm gonna come clean. I have a hard time finding like almost like the more intrinsic value of exercise, eating healthy, things like that. I do it because I know somewhere, because people constantly keep saying exercise is good, eating healthy is
I remember we had this conversation once.
And we did.
I was like, Richard, go hit the gym. And he was like, fuck you. All right. So I think, it's interesting because we all have to find what that is for ourselves, right? And for me, with exercise, like when I go to the gym, the amount of amazingness that I feel afterwards, that's why I go, right? I could list off all the other reasons. I love to play basketball. And so I know that every single time I go to the gym, I get to play basketball. Because I play it for like 15 or 30 minutes. Just shooting, right? And I used to do that a lot when I was a kid. So half the reason I go to the gym is because I just want to play basketball, right? I'm not going so I can just like push big weights and stuff. Although when I do that and at the end, I feel amazing. Just like when I go to yoga tonight, I'm going because I know that when I walk out of there, I'm going to be like, bliss. How good do I feel right now, right?
Yeah.
So there is that. I'm not doing it so that like people can look at me and be like, dude, you're in great shape. Because I am right now. I'm the biggest I've ever been in like a positive way. I'm in the best shape of my life, 100%. But it's because of how I get to feel when I do it. And that's why I'm going. I'm not doing it so that I'm alive when I'm fucking 60 years old or, like I'm doing it because I get to feel amazing today.
Yeah.
But I also believe in the way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I go to the gym consistently, that develops consistency in other areas of my life. Right? And if I'm not choosing, which I didn't choose for a long time, to exercise, what else am I not choosing, even though I know it's in my best interest?
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think it's ever about like doing it for other people. I think you have to find what it is for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that takes time. But I also think that unless you're consistent for a period of time, you may not find the value in it right away. Right? And so that's like someone meditates once and they're like, I don't know, I don't feel it. You might not see the value in meditation for a fucking year. But after a year, you're like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
And so I think part of our culture is focused on like instant gratification. Or part of it, our culture is focused on instant gratification. And everything that we do every day is basically training us for that. Yet research shows that successful people are ones who are able to delay gratification. Right? And so how can you play with that in your life? And also pay attention to the value that you get from these different things? Because if we don't pay attention to them, whether it's how can we celebrate our small wins or the value that we get from other things, then we're never going to have the awareness of it, right? And so we actually have to consciously think about, wait, what is the value I'm getting from this? I love to play basketball. I love to feel good. I like seeing my body physically looking good.
Yeah.
I sleep better, right? I have more energy. I can keep up with a 74-year-old who was surfing the other day. Like, these are things that just bring benefit to my life. And it encourages me to keep doing it.
What are some ideas that you have for ways we could improve our self-esteem on a daily basis? You mentioned it's all about doing things that are in alignment, like picking up trash and doing these little things. Just for people listening, what are just some little ideas or medium ideas or bigger ideas that people could just implement immediately to be like, oh, I did that. That's
yeah. So, I mean, number one for me would be journaling. Like journaling, bar none, I think has one of the best benefits in order to identify and be consistent in reflection.
What do you recommend someone journals about, or how they tackle it?
So I would start their day by, 5-minute journal is one that like you could do that would be awesome. You could order it, 5-minute journal.
What?
Yeah, there you go. Which just makes it really easy, right? But even without that, my challenge to you would just be at the beginning of your day, what are 3 things you're grateful for? And what are 3 intentions that you have for today, right? And then at the end of the day, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? And what are 3 things that you're proud of yourself for that day? If you do that, not one day or 2 days, but for the next year, for the next 2 years, for the next 3 years, I know that your self-esteem will increase. It's like guaranteed. The difference is people don't stick with anything long enough to actually get the real benefit. And you see it with YouTube. How long have you been YouTubing for?
Almost 3 years, man. Almost
3 years, right? And what would you say about your audience? Like, how big is it? Like, do you feel like you're getting like at the beginning of 3 years, would you say that you're surprised that you don't have like a fucking huge audience comparatively to what you thought at the time?
Ask that again.
At the beginning of your 3 years, at the point you are now, how big do you think your audience would have been?
Let's see. 3 years ago, I think my audience would have been, if I were being like realistic, quote unquote realistic, probably like a few hundred or 1,000, something like that.
Cool. And so, I mean, you're doing really well then, right? Now, does YouTube still kind of feel like sometimes that you're putting in like a lot of work and like it's like a very slow growth process?
Oh yeah.
Right? Now, I can say, because I've been YouTubing for 2 years, I do 2 videos a week. Like I hustle on this stuff hard. It's like, there's ways I could hack it, but to do it the right way, I knew when I started YouTube that it was going to be at least 3 years of me being consistent for me to see any sort of real results from it.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn an instrument, if you want to learn the language, like if you want to do anything, if you're not willing to commit for like 3 years, then you're kind of fooling yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you're not ever like you start a business. Oh yeah, you expect to see results after 2 months? I've been in business 9 years. And yeah, now I'm doing well. But it's still difficult. And I've been in this 9 years, right? And so it's, are you willing to commit long-term enough?
Yeah.
Actually see the results. And just most people aren't. And that's why most people don't have results.
Right on. Goodness, you have no idea how much I wish I remembered the other 4 questions I want to answer. They were like really powerful questions.
They'll come to you, or some other time.
Some other time, probably. Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for all of the tips, the stories, the lessons, everything, man. A lot of great knowledge. For people who are interested in contacting Cam Adair, you can check him out on YouTube at Game Quitters.
Game Quitters.
GameQuitters.com. What are some other ways people can get a hold of you, Cam?
Watch my TEDx talks. They're awesome. They're old, but they're awesome. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, at Cameron Dare. You can also find me on Facebook. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is that I respond to all comments. Richard has seen this. I don't mess around when it comes to comments. And so, if you email me, message me, tweet me, any of that stuff, I will respond. So if you're watching this, I'd love to hear from you. Ask me any question, ask me anything. Love to hear from you, and I will respond. So hope to hear from you guys, and really appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Cam's Game Quitters is attached to my YouTube account, so you can check it out under the favorites, of course. Cam's been a long-time friend of mine, so love you, brother. And last thing I want to ask of you is any parting words that you have for the Infinite Mastery community.
Parting words. I'm going to think for a second. Here it is. Every single person watching this has been through some sort of experience, adversity, challenge, whatever it is, good or bad, that has the power to change the world and to launch a movement that has a positive impact. My story was one story of someone who gamed a lot, who struggled to quit, and who ultimately was able to find some things that helped. And when I shared that online, I learned that there were thousands of other people who also cared about it as well. And now today we're reaching 20,000 people on a monthly basis in 73 countries around the world. And that's having like a monumental impact in people's lives everywhere. From people finishing high school, to people graduating college and finishing PhDs, to people getting their first job or developing a relationship with their family. These things matter. These help people be productive members of society and to be happy. Every single person watching this, I believe, has something in themselves to be able to share and have the same impact in the world. And yet we all wait before sharing it. And so I would just challenge every single person here that like you all have a story that could really make a difference, but it can't make a difference if you don't share it openly and if you don't share it out for the world, whether it's in a YouTube video or on a blog post, anywhere. And so I would just challenge everybody, if you're watching this, what is your story and how can you share it to the world?
Thank you so much for hanging out with us on this week's episode of the Infinite Mastery Podcast. For more show notes and other information of this week's episode, as well as previous week's episode, check out infinitemastery.org. Also, we have a private Facebook group where we have regular conversations. You can hit me up there at facebook.com/groups/infinitemastery. Thank you so much and see you next week.